I won't let you all know, but I was out in Maine when I was up in the high school area. And we used to go down the Allagash River, and we used to take a trip down through Eagle Lake. And Eagle Lake, we traveled down the Allagash most of the time, but when we got to Eagle Lake was sort of a permanent campsite, you know, kind of place. And we'd stay there for about a week, 10 days, and well, the nice thing about Eagle Lake, it had all in their creature comforts, because the fireplace was ready, and well, you know, didn't have an outhouse, didn't have an outhouse. It had a throne, yes, a throne, a very nice high place, down away from the campsite, overlooking the lake, and of course there's nobody there, you know, you're just traveling through the wilderness. And so you didn't care if you was out in the open, and you had a nice view of the lake. It was wonderful. And so, you know, in the morning you'd do your constitution, and you'd sit on the throne, and you'd see the birds walk by, and maybe a deer comes across, and it was really lovely, I tell you. Yeah, you tell me, you'd just love it if you was up there. Anyway, the one year we got there, and the pit underneath the throne needed replacement, shall we say. So we moved over a little bit, and we happened to dig over here. And that turned out to be the previous pit. So we found it, well, that was really nice. It was easy digging, no roots, nothing, you know, and it was all sort of, it had all kind of gone to the earth, you know. There's nothing bad about it at all. It was just really kind of easy to dig in. And so we dug out a new pit, and we took the throne and we moved it over, and everything was nice. But, you know, as we was digging, we found one of the most interesting things I'd ever seen. And down in the middle of that pit, there was one of them fancy little camping utensil things. You know, there's a knife and a fork and a spoon that all fitted together, and they clipped together so that they wouldn't come apart in your pack, you know, and poke through the side of the pack. They were just wonderful little things. And we found that down in the middle of the pit. And I said, well, somebody certainly could use this, you know, and we ought to, you know, we ought to clean this up real good. So we cleaned it up real good. We took it to the, well, we washed it off in the lake first, of course, you know, and we scrubbed it off with dirt and gravel and so forth. And then we put it through the soapy water. And then we put it through the rinse water, and somebody said, well, better put it through boiling water too, you know. So we put it through boiling water, and we shined it up real good, and there it was, knife, fork, and a spoon all ready for anybody who wanted it. Well, I gave it to this fella and that fella, and invited this fellow over here to try it out, and maybe he'd like to have it for his pack. And they all said, no, thank you. And if I couldn't sell it, nowhere. Couldn't figure that out. So we threw it back in the pit. Now, in this next little episode here, I wanted to tell you, I wanted to write this down because I didn't want to forget something. There's a lot of preliminaries to this here story, and you've got to get the preliminaries straight, you know. Have you noticed that, well, there ain't no more diners? You know, now you've got all them chain things, you know, that all the food's the same no matter where you go. But there's no more good old-fashioned diners. Good old-fashioned diners are dying out, and you can't find them nowhere, except, well, you're very lucky in the state of Maine. You can find them up there, yes, sir. They're all over the place. I mean, a good old family diner, you know, the kind where there's the sort of the scent of friolata in the air, and it's a real greasy spoon, you know, and it's been run by the same family for 35, 40 years and something like that. It's not just one of these little things that somebody puts down automatically. And then, of course, there's atmosphere. You know, there's real atmosphere to a diner. It's an original enterprise. It's kind of homey, and you have soft padded seats there. And any place there's been a tear, you know, there's the duct tape holding it together. And the counter, you know, has that lovely yellow or green faded linoleum on top of it. Yes, sir. And of course there's the wear spots right along the edge there where people have been putting their elbows for so many years. And there's gum underneath the counter. I mean, you got to have that for sure. And well, the owner's out back, you know, and there's a little window there, and you can see right through into the kitchen where the owner and all them people are working, and that's where they pass out the food, you know, and you can see the grease coming up out of the fryer and all that, so you know it's cooked real well. Yeah. The waitresses are friendly, of course. You know, you got plump waitresses, and they're not the teenagers who just call you guys. Right? The waitresses have been there for 35 years too. They're professionals, you know, and they're friendly and they love to see you, and if you give them any guff, they can give it right back twice as hard. My favorite diner is really not just a diner, but it's a truck stop. And it's the kind of place where folks will bring their grandkids and they'll take them to the same booth that they used to sit in when they was kids themselves. And it's a long-term thing, you know. When you pull in to the truck stop, you see this big long line of pumps. And downwind of the pumps, you see the restaurant. And it's a Dysart's truck stop. And it has a big sign right up front saying, "Eat here and get gas." And it has a truck theme, you know. It's for truckers, and they want to make the truckers feel at home. So, you know, there's this big picture of a 10-wheeler sitting right there in front of you when you're eating your dinner. Makes some people a little nervous to see a big truck just sort of bearing down on them, but for truckers, you know, it makes them feel at home. It's good. And they have these jukeboxes with all the songs you love. I remember one song, the original version of "If You Want to Keep Your Six-Pack Cold, Put It Next to My Ex-Wife's Hat." And it's on 8-track cassette too. I'll tell you, we were there one night and we noticed an older couple coming in, and they sat down and they were so lovey and so, you know, so friendly and just smiling at each other so much. And but they were old, they were very old, and we're trying to figure out who they were. Then we remembered there was Paul Harvey on the radio, and he said that there was this older couple. Every now and then he sort of celebrated the oldest married couple who'd been married for the longest time. And we figured that must be who they were, because they were so happy. And they ordered, you know, the big rig. Each one of them ordered a big rig, which was this steak that's smothered in onions and gravy, and oh, it's just a huge dinner. You know, you wouldn't want to eat it unless you was really hungry. But this couple was having such a good time. They made the order, and then they kept billing and cooing with each other, and we were just intrigued. Finally, the dinner came, and we noticed that the wife, she dug right in. She got her knife and fork out and started bailing away, you know, and eating that steak just as fast as she could. But the husband, he was just sitting there and smiling at her and encouraging her, but he didn't touch his meal. So we didn't know what to make of all that. And finally the waitress caught on, and she came over and she said, how are things going? And they said, "Oh, it's just wonderful. This is a great meal." She said, "Well, I couldn't help but notice that, you know, the wife is eating, and you, the husband, you haven't touched your food. Is there something wrong?" And he said, "Oh." And he sort of turned a little deep red and a little embarrassed, and he kind of leaned over to her and cupped his hands, and he said, "Well, dearie, it's like this. I'm just waiting till Mother finishes with the teeth."